Hey there, and welcome back. I'm so grateful you're continuing this journey with me because today we're taking the next profound step in your transformation. Last week, we dove into the rediscover phase of the Recalibrate methodology. We created space for silence, asked what do I believe in, and hopefully, for maybe the first time in a long time, you started hearing your authentic voice beneath all the conditioning and expectations. And that silence you created, that connection to your true belief, that was your foundation. And now we're ready to build on it. This week is all about the redefine step, where things can get really exciting. Now that you've rediscovered who you are at your core, we get to ask the next transformative question. How do I want to live my life? I want you to really sit with that question. Not how should I live, not how do others expect me to live, but how do I want to live my life? For most of us, this question feels both thrilling and terrifying. Thrilling because it opens up infinite possibilities. Terrifying because we've been living according to someone else's blueprint for so long that we've forgotten we have the power to design our own. But here's what I want you to understand. You do have that power. You always have. The redefine phase is about reclaiming it. When I first pose this question to my clients, the initial response is often overwhelm. Without all the shoulds and supposed tos that have been guiding their decisions, they suddenly feel lost. And that's completely normal. We've been using external expectations as our GPS for so long that when we remove them, we feel disoriented. But that feeling of being lost, it's actually the beginning of being found. When we strip away all those external voices, we finally get to hear our own. The redefine phase is about taking everything you rediscovered, your authentic beliefs, core values, true desires, and using them as the blueprint for designing a life that's genuinely yours. This isn't about throwing away everything you've built. It's about examining what you have built and asking, does this align with who I actually am? Does this serve the life I want to create? Think about it this way. If you discovered your house was built on someone else's foundation and it was a little shaky, you wouldn't just keep building on top of it. You'd strengthen that foundation or build a new one that could actually support the life you want to live. That's exactly what we're doing in the redefine phase. So what exactly does this look like in practice? Well, first, it starts with honest inventory. We look at your different areas of life through the lens of your authentic self. Take your career. Does your work align with your values? Does it utilize your natural strengths? Are you climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall? We look at your relationships. Are you showing up authentically? Are you surrounding yourself with people who see and appreciate the real you? Or are you performing a version of yourself to maintain relationships that don't truly serve you? We look at your daily life. How are you spending your time? What activities energize you versus drain you? What does a typical day look like when you're living in alignment versus living according to others' expectations? We look at your environment. Does where and how you live reflect your values? Are you creating space for what matters most to you? Now I want to be clear. This isn't about perfection or immediately overhauling your entire life. This is about awareness and intentionality. When you start asking, how do I want to live my life? You're not committing to dramatic changes overnight. You're committing to conscious choice making going forward. And here's where it gets really powerful, because every single choice you make from this point forward becomes an opportunity to align more closely with your authentic self. Some changes might be small, setting boundaries around your time, saying no to commitments that don't align with your values, or carving out space for activities that genuinely bring you joy. Other changes might be more significant. A career change, a relationship conversation, or a geographical move that just better supports the life you want to create. But here's what I've learned. The size of the change matters less than the authenticity behind it. One small decision made from your true self is more powerful than a dozen major decisions made from conditioning. The redefine phase also asks you to get comfortable with being different. When you start living according to your own values rather than others' expectations, you will stand out. People might not understand your choices, or they may question your decisions, and that's okay. In fact, it's necessary. When I started to redefine how I wanted to live my life, this process helped me get clear on who I wanted in my life and who I didn't. Remember, you're unbecoming everything you were told and taught to be so you can become who you inherently are. That process will feel foreign to people who knew you in your previous iteration, but that doesn't make it wrong. Every person who has ever lived a life of authentic fulfillment has had to walk through this phase. They've had to choose their own path over the well-worn trail everyone else was following. You're not being selfish by designing a life that aligns with your values. You're being responsible. When you live authentically, you show up as your best self everywhere. Your relationships improve because you're no longer hiding behind masks. Your work improves because you're bringing your whole self to it. Your impact improves because you're operating from genuine passion rather than from obligation. As you move through this redefined phase, give yourself permission to dream big. Not someone else's version of big, your version of big. What would your life look like if you had complete permission to design it according to your values? What would you do more of? Less of? How would you spend your days? Who would you spend them with? Here's the beautiful thing. You don't have to have all the answers right now. The redefine phase is about clarifying your vision, not perfecting your execution. It's about getting clear on your what so that the how can begin to emerge. By the end of this phase, you'll have something most people never give themselves, a clear sense of your own truth. Not your parents' truth, not society's truth, not the truth that looks good on paper, but your truth. That clarity becomes your North Star for every decision that follows. It becomes the filter through which you evaluate opportunities, relationships, and choices. It becomes the foundation for a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. So here's my invitation to you. Ask yourself that question with complete honesty and openness. How do I want to live my life? Sit with it. Write about it. Dream about it. Let yourself imagine what's possible when you remove all the limitations that aren't actually yours. Remember, you were born with everything you need to live a life of purpose and fulfillment. The redefine phase is about designing that life with intentionality and authenticity. This is your life to create. This is your story to write. And it starts with the courage to ask, how do I want to live? And then the commitment to start living that answer. You've done the hard work of discovering your conditioning and rediscovering who you are at your core. Now it's time to design a life that honors that. Take a deep breath, trust your vision, and remember the most extraordinary life you can live is the one that's authentically yours. You've got this. I'll see you next week as we continue this transformative journey and talk about the reconstruct phase of the recalibrate journey. Until then, don't forget to join our community of conscious, authentic changemakers. Thank you so much for watching.